The train station pulsed with life, heels clicking, voices echoing, metal screeching against metal. A woman stood still in the middle of it all, untouched by the chaos around her. She didn't flinch when the crowd brushed past her shoulders. She didn't blink when the loudspeaker announced departures. Her eyes, those quiet, stormy eyes, remained locked on Platform 3, as if it held something she had left behind years ago. In her hand, a small cracked watch dangled from her fingers, its ticking long dead, but she kept winding it anyway. Out of habit. Or memory. Or madness. A gust of wind blew through the open corridor, lifting a strand of her dark hair across her lips. She didn't move it. Her other hand clutched a small navy blue suitcase. Its corners were scuffed, its handle wrapped in red thread like someone had tried to fix it once, long ago. "You wouldn't last a month without me." His voice had once been thunder in her bones. Now it was barely a whisper in her memory, faint, laughable. She didn't cry. That was over. That version of her, the girl who had once begged him to stay, who had stitched silence into her skin just to keep the peace, she no longer existed. What stood here now was someone else. She glanced at the digital clock. 2 minutes until departure. Her hands shook, just slightly, as she opened her phone. No messages. She hadn't expected any. But she checked anyway, force of habit. Sometimes, you want to be wrong just to feel human again. Across the platform, a man and woman laughed. The woman wore a red scarf, too bright for the grayness of the day. Their joy felt foreign. Like a language she once knew but couldn't speak anymore. Her eyes drifted back to the tracks. Not because she wanted to leave, but because she already had. Long before this station. Long before she packed that suitcase in the middle of the night and slipped out with only what she could carry and what she could remember. Behind her, a child cried. A mother scolded. A man swore into his phone. Life was happening all around her, loud and unbothered. And still, she stood there. Watching. Waiting. The train horn blew, low, aching, final. She didn't move. Not yet. Because there was still one thing left undone. One moment left to rewrite. Her thumb grazed the cracked face of the watch again. Tick, tick, she whispered. Not to the watch. To the silence. And then, she lifted her chin. Eyes forward. And took the first step. She sat on the worn bench just beyond the platform now, the suitcase at her feet, its red-threaded handle coiled like a vein. Her fingers traced the seams out of habit, like she used to do as a child, back when this very suitcase held dresses too big for her and stories her mother whispered in the dark. Back then, it smelled of jasmine and old coins. Now, it smelled like unfamiliar cities and late nights spent figuring things out alone. You don't fix broken things by hiding the cracks, her father had once said, gently pressing that same handle with calloused hands. But she had learned otherwise. Sometimes you do hide the cracks. Not to deceive, but to survive. Across the glass window, a little girl ran into her father's arms. He lifted her like she weighed nothing. The woman watched without expression, but her throat tightened. It had been years since anyone reached for her like that. No arms waiting. No name called. Just silence. The kind that builds like snow, soft, cold, and heavy. She shifted her gaze away, blinked once. Then again. Behind her, a man stood leaning against the rusted pillar. He wasn't staring at her exactly, just observing, like people do when they notice something slightly out of place. His presence didn't feel threatening. But it didn't feel accidental either. She ignored him. Instead, her mind drifted back to the kitchen floor 3 winters ago, knees bruised, one slipper missing, her breath fogging up the marble. He had thrown the watch at her. Keep it, he'd spat, you're running out of time anyway. The crack on its glass had started then. But she didn't throw it away. She wore it. Every day. Let it dig into her wrist like a reminder, you made it through. Time didn't stop when he left. But silence, that stayed. Her phone buzzed once. A client from Dubai, payment confirmed. She exhaled. Not relief. Something deeper. A quiet defiance. The man at the pillar was still there. This time, their eyes met. He gave the softest, most uncertain smile, as if asking permission. She didn't smile back. But her gaze lingered. Long enough to feel it. The tension. The question. The weight of all she wasn't saying. She stood. The train had left minutes ago. But she hadn't. Not fully. Her fingers brushed the suitcase handle one last time. The red thread tugged slightly, as if it, too, remembered where this journey had started. She turned toward the stairs, but paused. Just once. She didn't know why. Or maybe she did. Behind her, the stranger hadn't moved. And neither had the silence. The sky cracked open as she reached the top of the stairs, first a low rumble, then a sudden downpour. People rushed for cover, pulling coats over heads, clutching bags close. But she didn't run. She let the rain kiss her face, soak into her sleeves. There was something oddly clean about it. Behind her, the man followed. Not hurried. Not hesitant. Just steady. Like someone who had waited too long for something unnamed. She glanced back, caught the way his shoes squelched with water, old leather, seams coming undone. The kind of wear that didn't come from walking. It came from not being able to stop. Her eyes drifted lower. A wallet slipped slightly from his coat pocket as he reached to shield his head. Inside, she saw it, barely. A black and white photo, edges curled with time. A girl. Maybe 6. Smiling with 2 front teeth missing. He caught her glance but said nothing. Only adjusted the wallet and tucked it deeper. She didn't ask. He didn't offer. They stood beneath the same awning now, inches apart, yet separated by years of stories they hadn't told. "Why are you still here?" she almost said. But the words never came. Instead, she asked the safer question. "Missed your train too?" He shrugged, eyes scanning the empty track. "Maybe I didn't come for the train." His voice was calm, too calm. Like someone who'd made peace with wreckage. She looked at him then, truly looked. The lines under his eyes. The way his fingers curled slightly as if bracing for loss. Something about him mirrored her. Not in the details, but in the silence between them. A kind of grief that doesn't scream. Just stays. "Don't get involved," a voice inside her warned. She had built everything alone. Brick by brick. Tier by tier. Her success was her sanctuary, hard-earned, delicate, easily undone. And yet, she didn't walk away. The rain intensified, thunder rolling in the distance like a quiet warning. "You waiting for someone?" he asked. She blinked. "I thought I was." A beat of silence. Heavy. Almost warm. He nodded, then looked away. "Sometimes the people we wait for are the ones who never plan to come back." Her chest tightened. The words were too close. Too familiar. She stepped out from under the awning. The rain welcomed her like an old friend. "Take care," she said, not turning back. But as she walked, she felt him watching. Not with desire. Not with intent. Just, knowing. She didn't know what that meant. She wasn't sure if she wanted to. And the suitcase, soaked and fraying at her side, said nothing. But it felt heavier than before. She walked faster now, past the shops, the flickering vending machines, the families gathering under umbrellas. Her steps were uneven, breath catching with each one. She didn't know where she was going. Only that she had to keep moving. If she stopped, the silence might catch her again. The rain clung to her like memory, soaking through her clothes, her resolve. She wanted to scream, but her throat refused. It had learned too well to swallow words. She turned a corner near Gate 9, then stopped abruptly. Her suitcase. It wasn't in her hand. Panic rose sharp and sudden, clawing at her chest. She spun around, eyes wide, heart stammering. She hadn't even noticed letting it go. And then, through the blur of rain, she saw him. He was standing near the bench now, the one she'd sat on earlier. In his hand, her suitcase. He wasn't opening it. Just holding it. Gently. Like it was something fragile. She took a step toward him. Then stopped. People passed between them, umbrellas tilted, glances stolen. A woman shook her head softly as she brushed by. A man whispered something under his breath. Nothing cruel. But enough to sting. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. Her lungs tightened. She had worked so hard to look untouchable. The heels, the crisp clothes, the polished words. But now she stood here, hair clinging to her cheeks, mascara bleeding at the corners, past clinging to her like second skin. "I thought you might need it," he said quietly, lifting the suitcase toward her. She hesitated. It wasn't about the bag. It never was. It was about being seen with it, being seen as it. Broken. Repaired. Still moving. Her fingers reached out, slow and trembling. When they met the handle, the red thread was softer than she remembered. "I used to have one just like it," he said, not smiling. "My daughter loved hiding things in the lining." She blinked, unsure whether it was the rain or something else burning in her eyes. A second passed. Then another. She should walk away. Thank him, nod, move on. But instead, her voice cracked open like wet wood. "I don't know why I stopped." He looked at her, not with answers, but with a kind of grief that understood. "Maybe because you weren't done yet." The station blurred again, rain, motion, faces. The suitcase rested between them now. Not heavy. Not light. Just real. She looked down at it, then up at him. She didn't take a step forward. But she didn't step back either. Later that afternoon, in the glass lobby of a downtown office tower, she waited alone. Her soaked clothes had dried in patches, but the weight of the day clung to her. She had almost skipped the meeting. Almost texted to reschedule. But something about the man with the suitcase and the red thread made her pause. Now, as she sat across from the receptionist, her cracked watch still wrapped tight around her wrist, the time blinked at her, dead, but ever present. Like the past she carried. "Mr. Asher will see you shortly," the receptionist said, barely looking up. Asher. She'd heard that name before. On contracts. On investment papers. On the company's mission page where she had hesitantly submitted her proposal last month. A proposal that could change everything if anyone actually believed in her work. She stood when the assistant gestured toward the conference room, her palms damp. The door opened, and she stopped cold. He was standing by the window. The same man. From the station. No worn shoes now. No rain on his collar. Just a crisp charcoal suit and silence wrapped in power. "You?" she breathed. He turned slowly, face unreadable. "I told you I didn't come for the train." The words rang in her mind like a bell. Maybe I didn't come for the train. He walked toward the table, set down a small frame. Her eyes fell on it. The same photo. The same smiling little girl. Missing 2 front teeth. She used to carry a suitcase just like yours, he said softly. Said it made her feel grown up. Safe. The red thread. The weight of it. Suddenly, it wasn't just hers. I kept that thread after she died, he continued. It reminded me that even broken things can still carry what matters. She couldn't speak. Her throat swelled with something sharp and aching. You applied here 3 weeks ago, he said, sitting. Your pitch was solid. But your silence spoke louder. She looked down at her hands, trembling now, just like at the station. You've built something out of nothing, he said. That matters. Tick, tick. The memory came rushing back. You're running out of time anyway. And now, maybe she wasn't. Why are you really here? She asked. He held her gaze. To offer you the deal. Or the door. That choice is yours. And just like that, she reached the point of no return. Not because of him. Because of her. Because of every step that led to this moment. She turned toward the open door. And walked in. The conference room had long emptied. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the tall windows, like stars trying to be something more. She sat alone now, her cracked watch resting on the glass table. In front of her, a single page, contract ready, her name printed in bold. One signature away from the beginning she thought she always wanted. Behind her, the door creaked open. She didn't turn. He walked in slowly, no longer the stranger from the station, nor the powerful man from the office. Just someone, quietly human. I didn't expect you to stay, he said. She gave a half smile. I almost didn't. He stepped closer and set something beside the watch, the small, red-threaded handle from her suitcase. Detached. Frayed. Wrapped now in a new band of soft leather. I had it repaired, he said. It didn't feel right, leaving it broken. She touched the handle gently, tears warming behind her eyes. Why me? She asked. Why this? His voice was steady. Because you reminded me of her. Not just my daughter. But the woman I wish she could have become. Fierce. Alone, but not empty. Her breath caught. So this was never about me, she whispered. He looked down. It was never meant to be. For a moment, the silence between them returned. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was honest. She stood, closing the folder, but leaving it unsigned. He raised an eyebrow. You're walking away from all of it? She nodded. I came to prove I could live without him. Without anyone. And I did. But I don't want to build my future on old ghosts. Not his. Not yours. He studied her for a long time. Then nodded, as if understanding the cost of strength. At the door, she paused. Keep the thread, she said softly, sliding the handle back across the table. You carried it longer than I did. She left the watch too. Outside, the night air kissed her skin as she stepped into the same station from before. But this time, she wasn't the girl standing still. A woman brushed past her, suitcase in hand, eyes wide with uncertainty. For a second, their gazes met, and in the girl's trembling hands, she saw herself. Only now, she knew how to leave. She smiled gently. Didn't say a word. Tick, tick. The memory echoed again. But it didn't sting anymore. Time wasn't her enemy. Silence wasn't a sentence. She had survived. Not to prove a point. But to become something else entirely. She crossed the platform slowly, wind lifting her hair just like before. Only now, her hands didn't shake. The suitcase was gone. But her steps were sure. Not every stranger you help is meant to stay, but some leave you changed forever. The apartment was quiet when she returned. No echo of heels behind her, no shadows waiting in corners. Just the hum of the fridge and the distant city breathing outside her window. She slipped off her shoes and stood for a moment, barefoot on cold tiles, heart strangely full. Not with joy, exactly. But with space. And peace. In the corner of her bedroom sat a small drawer she hadn't opened in months. Not since she first moved in. She knelt beside it now, slowly sliding it open. Inside, the cracked watch. Still silent. Still waiting. She picked it up and held it under the warm glow of the bedside lamp. The glass shimmered like old wounds do in soft light, no longer bleeding, but never erased. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. Gently, she placed the watch back inside, beside a folded train ticket and a frayed piece of red thread. Then closed the drawer, not with finality, but with reverence. Some things don't need fixing. Some things just need honoring. Later, she walked the long road near the park, where golden leaves curled along the path like whispers. The air was cool, crisp, alive. Children laughed in the distance. A dog barked. Somewhere, a street musician strummed the kind of song that made people stop without knowing why. She sat on a wooden bench, the kind built for waiting or remembering. Her phone buzzed. Another offer. Another deal. She silenced it. Her gaze drifted to the couples walking hand in hand, to strangers wrapped in the warmth of someone else. And for once, she didn't feel apart from it all. She felt whole, watching. As if belonging wasn't a place or a person, but a decision. A memory returned, soft as breath. Sometimes love is not romance, it's recognition, her mother once whispered while brushing her hair. It's when someone sees you, and you don't have to explain yourself. She had waited years for someone to see her like that. And now? Now she saw herself. No applause. No grand ending. Just the quiet truth of survival. Of becoming. She stood and walked again, each step her own. Not toward anyone. Not away. Just forward. The city didn't pause for her. But she no longer needed it to. Maybe healing isn't moving on, maybe it's learning how to walk with what you still carry.